Good day. It is April 30th, 2024. This is Sharon Pierce for NDE, Near Desert Experience. And I want to do a recap of the water situation right in the middle of spring 2024. We did have a great deal of rain, and now it's leveling off. However, the reservoirs, the lakes, they're all at a very high level across California, except for the extreme northeast corner, and they're high there too, but not over 100%. But I just wanted to bring up some data that I've collected in general. I won't be talking about the congressional districts so much, but I'm going to share the screen for a moment here. This was my original opening screen. We'll share that. Water, 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 near desert experience. So my point for doing this podcast is to say that the water has come to the West Coast. It's been here for several years. It's filling up the lakes and the reservoirs and the rivers and the the wells and so forth, aquifers, and we're adding up water, water, water. I'm doing this not, although I'm addressing the areas by congressional districts, because I think there's a point to be made. I am not a partisan of either the Democratic or Republican Party. I'm an independent. I've been registered as a no-party preference voter for many decades. But I want to encourage voters to consider the changing landscape along the West Coast and what that will portend for those living here in the future, how the increasing moisture will change the terrain. It will make it more livable. It will encourage population growth in certain areas, and for people to take heed and as voters sit down and figure out what you want to have in areas that will become more lush and more rich with water, and manage these areas the way you want them to be managed. Take control, take the bull by the horns, and decide how you want to use the changing resources in the way of water that are definitely coming into this state. Water is the greatest resource California has. It also has oil, it also has minerals, and it has very wealthy people trying to take over the land. And it's been doing it for years through real estate enterprises, and then the real estate enterprises just destroyed the financial base of land ownership. They took over land ownership, and just figure that out. Why do they want the land? They want what's under the land. They want what's over the land. And the people would do well to take it back. That's all, just take it back. So environmental change is underway, and I have that up on the screen. I believe you can see it because I'm sharing the screen. The water riches fill aquifers, create a more lush atmosphere. The desert towns may develop, and possibly they already have infrastructure. Some of the old towns, even that have been partially or totally abandoned, have infrastructure that can be built out on. So that is something to consider. And then quickly moving along, I'm going to continue to focus in the year 2024, which is an election year, on congressional districts 20 to 29, also a little bit of Southern District 3, which encompasses Death Valley, which has had water. There's still water in Badwater Basin, but it's only a few inches tall, and they don't encourage people. You have to walk out, trudge out through the mud and leave trails and so forth, just to walk around in the water that's still there in Badwater Basin. there are still rainy areas. There are still, every week, there's rainfall somewhere. And it's been up north as well as down south. So we're expecting rain in the middle of this week. This is April 30th, 2024. And here is the congressional district map that I've shown a number of times. You get a lot of rain now over in here. And I have some data that I want to share with you. This is Badwater Basin in Death Valley. This was as of February. This was last July. So when the waters come, they stay longer. They don't drain down as much. But I'm going to pull up another screen, which is this one. Observed water year flow today, as of April, the end of April, the water status per California Water Watch is as follows. It may be a little difficult to see. I may not be pulled up as much as you want to see it, but these are reservoirs and lakes and so forth. And this tells basically that we're way above normal on the water content. This is San Bernardino County, 125%, even up to 185%. That was, I believe, around Victorville. Over in Kern County, 119%, up in Inyo County, 122%, and so forth. So where it is green, blue, and purple, that's where you're getting high amounts of moisture. And this is the Sierra, the peaks of the Sierras here where there's runoff. Now, for some of the factual data, the year-to-date statewide, as of April 28th, 22.49 inches of water. That's 105% of average. And the precipitation percent of average for full years is 95%, it says. But in any event, the historical record to date was 38%. But right now we're at 105% for the water year to date. The reservoirs are at 119% of average levels. The snow melt is 75% of average peak snowpack now. There has been snow melt. We've had snow melt. This is the end of April. The dry wells reported year to date, 51, only 51. Observed water year flow on the Kern River is at 157%. Tulare Dam, 123%. Here down in Victorville on the Mojave River, I believe that is 107%. Down near Hesperia on Deep Creek, the water flow is at 186%. They had a lot of water out in that part of the San Bernardino Riverside, southeastern California, and in Ventura, the Ventura River, 117%. San Benito, which is up sort of in south central California, it goes over towards Paso Robles if you continue west, San Benito Valley, and the mountains, Willow Creek, that's at 173%. This remark from Death Valley National Park, Lake Manly, the temporary shallow lake at Badwater Basin, is shrinking rapidly and is now only a few inches deep. It is a minimum of a quarter mile away from the road over rough, uneven salt and mud. Due to the shallow depth of the lake now, the damage caused by people dragging watercraft across the salt flats, the lake is closed to kayaking, paddleboards, canoes, and pool floats. They say from the ranger station, we do not know how long the lake will be present, but as of mid-April, visitors can still see beautiful reflections of the mountains in the water. Visitors are allowed to walk in the water, but please do not walk in muddy areas where you will leave footprints. No pets are allowed at the lake, including being carried or pushed, and there are wildflowers blooming in the park right now. Currently, the best places to view wildflowers are in Panamint Valley and east of Furnace Creek. So that is all that I put in there to date. Let's stop this sharing and go back to this stage, and we will go back over to, well, that will be here. All right, and we'll share again. Oh, share. Okay, there we go. So moving along, we had the election and it pretty much played out the way people thought it would. Mojave River is right in here and it is running. And I think that is something that I'll be looking at shortly. And then over here in District 27, just doing a little research this morning, Vince Fong was running to take over Kevin McCarthy's seat in the primary. And he won. He won the primary, but he still has to run against someone else in November. There are several races that haven't fully been determined. The courts were watching what happened with Vince Fong, and it looks like they're going to let him go ahead and run, although they're saying he had to stay in the way they're working it out now is they're saying he had to stay in the race that he first applied for rather than whatever he did. He could run in another race, but he had to stay. He couldn't withdraw from the first assembly seat, California State Assembly seat that he applied for when he switched to running for the congressional seat. And it was said, according to the Constitution, that he couldn't do that. He had to continue running for the assembly seat. And now they're saying that he couldn't drop out of the assembly seat. He had to be in both. They're making marshmallow decisions, the judiciary, about anything in politics right now, be it national or California. You're not getting sound people making judicial decisions that have spine to them. It's just the marshmallow brigade in the judicial system. So it looks like they're going to end up with Vince Fong as a Republican representative, and he's going to be running in everything that he wants to, and a lot of other people will be too. That was another argument, was if they allow this to go through with Vince Fong switching and running here, running there, and he had a special election to fill the empty Kevin McCarthy seat. Then he had the assembly seat that he ran for, and then the long-term congressional seat. Looks like he came in ahead on all of them. We'll see what will happen in November. Pretty much we know what's going to happen. But this sort of electioneering with the soft judgments and the judiciary, toasting marshmallows with these people, letting them do whatever they want to do when they want to do it, it's going to raise conflicts of people running for whatever offices all over the place. So that remains to be seen, another fine mess that people doing what they want to and not being allowed to do it gets us into. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's just going along and we're waiting to see what will happen in some of these areas. Now, 27 is what I'm going to cover next time. That comes down, District 27 comes down into eastern San Fernando Valley, LA. LA down here, and then it goes up into the desert. It goes up towards Santa Clarita. So I'll cover that the next time. And that was Mike Garcia. That Mike Garcia actually, if I can find it here. Mike Garcia is being investigated for insider trading, but that didn't seem to hurt him as he ran in the primary. And so he did all right. George Whitesides was the Democrat who ran against him, and he came in second as well. So those two will be on the ballot in November. It will be interesting to see if there's any fallout on Mike Garcia's, the investigation of him. So that's it for right now. I'm turning off the screen sharing, and there's not a lot that can be said about California now, except that it's having a very beautiful spring. Wherever you may go, it's almost like an old-fashioned California spring, I think, because I've been observing the wildflowers and the wild grasses and the weeds and so forth. It took a long time to come up, but the hillsides are very green now, and they are coming up. And it has a look to it, the way California used to look before everything was so perfectly landscaped. If you drive in the foothills, which is not difficult to do in California, you can always get to some foothills somewhere pretty quickly. The grasses are tall, and they're waving in the little breezes, and there's a slight fragrance, and there are flowers almost everywhere you look, and it's quite a nice thing to see. And I've always thought that March was the prettiest year in California, prettiest month of the year in California, because it shows you what was going on underground when the rains were falling and some snow up in the mountains, but it tells you and shows you what was getting ready to happen once the growth came up above ground. And it's always very clear. And now we are receiving warmer days. So it's quite a lovely time in California now. And we'll see what happens congressionally and politically. I shudder to think of what's going to happen politically, because it won't pertain to anything much that has to do with truth or with people living here. But those who are paying attention to where they live and where they want to be can take heed. There are things happening. 2024 appears to have crossed some sort of threshold. We left a time period behind. It's not the 20 teens, it's not 2021 and even 2022. We've gone over so many barricades, and we've gone on to so many different new ways of seeing things. It's not good for people individually. We don't have the wherewithal. We don't have the access to growing business, work, or wealth. That seems to have been blocked to us. Everything seems the taps have run dry, but the setting is quite nice.